Good afternoon, Diocese of Spokane. It is good to be here, even if here means sitting at my desk in the office, talking with all of you over Zoom. It is indeed good to be here. We have done good work on this day. We have done good work this year. And as the mission of the diocese continues to go forward, I know that what we have all learned about being the church and engaging in ministry during this time of COVID will shape us for generations to come. And that is actually a good thing. We've learned Episcopalians can. We can actually change. We can make changes quickly and effectively when we need to. We have been reminded that the church is the people, not the building. And we've also been reminded of how valuable our buildings are for facilitating our congregation's ministries. This convention year started, convention, of course, October of 2020, as we head into what I now call the winter of our discontent. And then into the spring of hopefulness. And then the burning off of hopes in the heat of summer. We experience congregations going into and out of, and into and out of, and into in-person worship. We urged our congregations to urge their people to get vaccinated, for vaccines save lives. And we had the challenge of the mask mandate returning to those of us who live in Washington State. Currently, we see our hospitals struggling with the number of patients who have COVID. Clearly, we are in this for the long haul. And so the process of engaging in our ministries while keeping our people safe and healthy is an ongoing challenge. And ministries are alive and well in the diocese. The women, for instance, had an online retreat with over 60 from around the diocese. The men had Zoom Bible study, 3 different groups throughout the year, joining one another across congregations. And the men are planning a virtual retreat for next month. I hope you saw that in the ministry's slides that we're going across. There's a men's retreat virtual in November. Please sign up. Both of these efforts, the Bible study, the online retreat coming up, have brought our members together in new ways to deepen their life in Christ. Our Creation Care Working Group, our beloved community working group, continue to meet and are looking forward to doing more with the larger diocese. And this year, we launched 4 new regional Community of Hope groups using Zoom gatherings. Community of Hope is a Benedictine-based pastoral care training. There were already 3 groups in the diocese, but with this initiative, we're able to have groups in every region, congregations coming together for training. And it's great to be able to have more of our members trained in pastoral care, able to listen to one another and support one another. We were planning on a live in-person convention to commission these pastoral care givers from the Community of Hope at our convention worship. But when we moved to virtual, we realized that plan just wasn't really feasible. All of these ministries are beautiful examples of our diocese reaching beyond our congregational walls to work together, study together, worship together, serve together. We are truly woven as one. Well, earlier today, we had the Camp Cross and Youth Report. We heard about the great ministry done with and by our youth in the diocese. And I am, as I said then, incredibly grateful to John Pallarine for answering God's call to serve here. I really look forward to working with Sarah Gunter, continuing to work with Sarah as we develop and continue to develop the ministry of our young people. It is a bright time for the ministry of camp and our youth. I really look forward to seeing how Sarah can help families develop their home faith life as families. I've said this many times. The number one way our children have faith as an adult is to be raised in a family of faith. And the work of helping all of our members, young and old alike, deepen their faith walk with Jesus is a key focus of my staff. I particularly want to thank again all of you who responded and supported our Woven as One campaign to strengthen Camp Cross and strengthen our formation across the diocese. So at last year's convention, I asked for a process of looking deeply into the call of God to our diocese now. Who is God inviting us to be? What is God inviting us to do in the here and now? This is a process of discernment, looking back, looking forward. We engaged with Holy Cow Consulting to help us in this work. They have worked with our diocese in the past. Our congregations use them frequently. And we started this discernment process by doing what's called a landscape survey. Now, this landscape survey went to all the clergy, all members of our diocesan committees and commissions, and all who are known to have a leadership role in our congregations, such as wardens and treasurers and other vestry members. Now, some of you might have been missed. If so, that's because we didn't have your name and email, and there's always an opportunity to give us those. The lay leadership Zoom, for instance, is for all of you, not just those that we actually know about. If you're not getting those invites, it's because we don't have your email. Send it to us. But from this landscape survey, we learned we are in a remarkably strong and healthy place. For all of our challenges, and we have them, for all of our issues, and we know them, across the board, clergy and laity alike find high energy and satisfaction in our diocese. And I'm of the opinion this reflects that we understand the diocese to be we, all of us together, all of our congregations connected one another. Not the diocese isn't an office building in Spokane. We together are the diocese. Well, through this landscape survey, there were 3 clear goals for our diocesan work. These goals are to engage in new church development in promising regions of the diocese, i.e. plant new churches, to equip our clergy and lay leaders with strategies that help them reach new members, i.e. grow our congregations, and to strengthen those congregations that are struggling. All of these priorities are about our congregations. We are called to strengthen them, called to grow them, and called to plant them. And I tell you, it gives me a great deal of joy to have priorities so clearly focused on our congregations. For I fundamentally believe that God calls communities of faith into being for the sake of God's mission, and that congregations are good. We need healthy, faithful, effective communities of faith so that we may live into our vision of being creative, compelling witnesses to Jesus Christ in the inland Northwest. What is also remarkable, as Emily Swanson from Holy Cow Consulting made clear, is our priority on church planting. She told us she has literally never seen that as a top priority in any diocese. To have planting new congregations as a priority shows a level of hope and faith that is inspiring. We are not willing to accept the story of scarcity and fear. We're not willing to hide our light under a bushel. We are walking boldly with Jesus into the future. Now, it is really good to identify priorities. I also know the work of strategic planning often involves identifying priorities and then dies a slow death. Diocesan Council has been working hard to ensure this does not happen. We have had multiple retreats and meetings, and our work is not yet complete, but these have helped us name our diocesan core values, identify strategic targets. Strategic targets are those things we need to do very well in order to achieve our priorities. And we name them milestones. Milestones are those action steps along the way that help us achieve our strategic targets. So, if our priorities are to plant congregations, grow congregations, and strengthen congregations, we need to know what core values speak to us, what our strategic targets need to be. In other words, what will you be hearing more about as we go forward in this work? So Diocesan Council identified 6 core values, those things which shape our work in our ministry. And these core values are liturgical worship, faith formation and storytelling, prayerful listening, mutual appreciation, community, and engagement both internal and external. So then Diocesan Council asked, What are those things we need to do really well? The strategic targets, which will allow us to live into our priorities of strengthening, growing, and planting new congregations. Now, strategic targets can be aspirational goals, but they need to be something we can work toward and mark progress as we're doing so. We need to be able to identify and measure that we're reaching them. And so Diocesan Council, knowing we're not answering for all time, right, but simply for the next several years, identified the following strategic targets. We will, and they're phrased in the sort of we will statements. We will embody the hospitality of God, showing the world our deep love and engagement for each other, our neighbors, and our communities. We will build and adopt the practices that foster mutual curiosity, courage, vulnerability, and adaptation among all members of the diocese. We will create opportunities across the diocese, every congregation, group, and ministry, to connect our story to the gospel and share the difference that Jesus makes in our life so that we can grow in our relationship with Christ and one another. Now, from these three strategic targets, Council is working to identify specific goals and milestones that will allow us to reach them and let us live into our priorities. And Council's still working on this. We're not done with it. We hope to be finishing this work at our upcoming November meeting. But for instance, one milestone related to helping each member connect our story to the gospel story might be to have ways every congregation can invite their members into that work, seeking to help all of us become more comfortable talking about our life as part of the sacred story, walking with one another in Jesus in our life. And exactly how that might look can take different formats. Well, we'll be taking this work of strategic planning forward, and we'll be having more conversations about it, since it's going to impact all parts of our diocese. I look forward to continuing the work with Diocesan Council on the planning and the implementation, all for the sake of our mission and vision and our priorities to strengthen, grow, and plant new congregations. Well, the work of strengthening and growing congregations is actually not new, and certainly not new here. We have a strong tradition of congregational development. It has been part of our diocese in a systemic matter since the formation of the regional development team at the end of 2011 and the start of the College for Congregational Development. Canon Susan Cleveley has worked tirelessly on behalf of our congregations for many years. When she moved into the role of canon to the ordinary, I realized over time that we were missing that one person, that person who was fully and solely dedicated to helping our congregations with their ongoing development. And this summer, I was very blessed to be able to call Caroline McCall to join my staff as the Canon for Congregational Development. As part of that call, I have said to Canon Caroline and to the members of the Regional Development Team that we need to be asking, what's next? What is the best way to help our congregations engage the work of development, the intentional work of becoming more healthy, more effective, more faithful communities of faith? The Regional Development Team has served us very well over the past 10 years. And it is important to always seek to ask, how can we do ministry now? What is needed now? This exploration of how we can best serve our congregations is an important aspect of our priorities to strengthen, grow, and plant new ones. And I'm grateful that Caroline is here and will be with us in this work. So next year, 2022, I am eligible for and will be taking a sabbatical. It's really hard to believe I've had 5 conventions as bishop. And February 1 starts my 6th year working for the diocese. And the other reality is there is no good time for a bishop to be gone. At the same time, right? Nobody is so important they can't be gone. Sabbatical is a time of renewal, of rest. Sabbatical is a time for a concentrated period of study and reflection, prayer and meditation. So as I've been wrestling with my sabbatical and struggled, and I couldn't grasp what it was I wanted to do. Nothing grabbed my attention. Until what I realized was I simply wanted to be on pilgrimage to our diocese. A pilgrimage is about making a sacred journey, walking to a sacred place. During a pilgrimage, we're invited to pay deep attention to meeting God in the here and the now. It's about paying attention to where God is, intentionally looking for God. And if a pilgrimage is a journey to a sacred place, remember, Scripture tells us God created all, called all creation good. We don't need to go far off to see the sacred. We don't need to go to exotic places or far off lands. We don't have to walk on foreign soil. It is here in this diocese, on this land, where we can have our eyes open to God's presence at all times. And that is what I want to do in a very intentional way. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to be on pilgrimage throughout the year, looking at the sacred landscape through the lens of 4 regions, the 4 seasons of the year, and the 4 seasons of our life. As the year goes by, my goal is to be very intentional about noticing where God is showing up, winter, spring, summer, and fall in every region, paying attention to seeing God in the face of young and old and every age in between, slowing down, taking the time to see the land, the people, the presence of God here in this diocese and these lands among this people who live here. That's the pilgrimage I'll be on this coming year. And when I take my formal sabbatical and I'm out of the office from about mid-November through January of 2023, I'm going to spend the time writing and being in prayer. I want to write psalms and hymns and prayers that reflect this pilgrimage, this land, this diocese, this encounter with God in ways that speak to us, in ways that can be shared with all of you. And I want to invite all of you, I want to invite all of our diocese to be on pilgrimage with me this coming year. Intentionally look for God in your own home, your own neighborhood, your own town, your community. Look for God in the presence of the people all around you. Look for God working in the shops and in the post office and in the schools. Look for God in the faces of the children and of the old people. Look for God everywhere. And I can hear somebody say, well, how do you do that? How do you see God when I don't see a burning bush speaking out loud? It's not a bad question. One way is to look to see, where do you see love in action? Look to see love. Look to see hope. Look to see joy and forgiveness and compassion and mercy. Look to see the hungry fed and the sick healed. Look there, and you will see God at work. And if you go throughout a day and you find it hard to see love, offer that love yourself. Be the face of God in your place. Well, when I started thinking about this and getting excited about being on pilgrimage, I got out the map and then I got out Google Maps and I mapped the distance between our congregations as if we were going to literally walk it, starting with our most southeastern congregation, which is in Grangeville. And I continued in a clockwise loop around the diocese. And using Google Maps, I came up with 1,294 miles. So rounding up slightly for errors, 1,300 miles. It's probably a good rough estimate. Now, interestingly enough, if you take that number, 1,300 miles, divided by 36, the number of faith communities in our diocese, you come up with 36. And if you take 36 and divide it by 6 days a week, because you got to leave one day off for Sabbath, you come up with 6. There's some beautiful things happening with numbers there. So what's one way every person can be on pilgrimage this year? Spend 6 minutes a day, 6 days a week in pilgrimage, in the intentional walk with God and looking for God. Let's be on pilgrimage together. So looking ahead, we are in a good place, even in the midst of challenges. The presiding bishop is going to be with us the last weekend of April, April 29 to May 1. It is going to be a time of celebration, worship, and learning. And let me just say that you have a bishop who was kind of clueless about the fact that May 1 is the first Sunday of May. And in Spokane, that means Bloomsday. So as I said before, get your hotel reservations now. We're going to be at the cathedral for that event. So get your hotel reservations now for Friday night, April 29, and Saturday, April 30th. That way you'll have them. Easier to cancel if you don't need them than get them later. It's going to be a great, great weekend. And Lisa and Trish will be back with us. You all had a time to see how great they were this morning. As the year keeps going, we'll be rolling out the strategic plan with work to be done at all levels. We're going to be starting with our leadership bodies, but all of this work is going to be designed to help us strengthen congregations, grow congregations, and plant new congregations. We are truly singing the Lord's song. We're walking the way of love, following Jesus together. I want to say thank you to all my staff for their hard work. The staff works tirelessly on behalf of the whole diocese, and I am grateful for all of their work and dedication. It is truly a joy to work with all of them. So as I thought about how to wrap up this year's convention address, I looked back over 2021. And what I remembered was that this year is also the year that I renewed my love of sea shanties. I even wrote several. So in honor of where we are as a diocese, what we're called to do, and giving thanks that you all tolerate my inflicting song upon you, but also saying that I'm suffering from some fall allergies, so I'm not actually going to sing, because this year singing would be more like croaking. And I thought there was a limit of what you would tolerate. But I'm going to say it instead. Sea shanties are basically poems anyway. Here is the Diocese of Spokane, 2021 sea shanty. Spread the gospel, hear God's call, share the faith with one and all. Don't be pushy, that's plain rude. Just offer God's good food. Called to strengthen, plant, and grow, our congregations love to show. To a world in distress, we can do no less. Jesus calls you and me from sin and evil to set free. Feed my sheep, go and preach, my good news to teach. Called to strengthen, plant, and grow, our congregations love to show to a world in distress. We can do no less. Many hands make work light. Love of Jesus shining bright. Join the song, sing it strong. One and all, we belong. Called to strengthen, plant, and grow, our congregations love to show to a world in distress, we can do no less. Well, Diocese of Spokane, it is an incredible delight and a joy to serve as your bishop. I cannot imagine being anywhere else. So thank you for another good year, and I look forward to the coming one. Amen.